What if the most powerful thing you could do for your memory tonight required no prescription, no expensive supplement, and no complicated routine? What if it simply required knowing which 5 foods to eat before bed, and more importantly, why each one works at a level so specific that researchers can now measure the effects on your brain while you sleep? I want to tell you something that most people over 50 have never been told. Your brain does not rest while you sleep. It works harder than during most of your waking hours. It runs a biological cleaning system, consolidates the memories you formed during the day, repairs damaged neurons, produces the proteins that strengthen synaptic connections, and flushes out the toxic waste products that accumulate between brain cells throughout the day. This overnight repair process is one of the most important things your brain does. And what you eat in the hours before it begins either supports that process dramatically or undermines it completely. Today, I'm going to show you 5 specific foods that research has shown to directly enhance this overnight brain repair process in adults over 50. Each one works through a distinct biological mechanism. Each one has been studied specifically in aging brain tissue, and together, they represent the most evidence-based nighttime nutrition strategy available for anyone who wants to protect their memory and cognitive function in the years ahead. Now I am going to cover these 5 foods from number 5 down to number 1, and I am saving food number 1 for last, because food number 1 is the one that will genuinely surprise you. It is not what you expect. It is not what gets talked about in mainstream health circles, and the research behind it is some of the most compelling I have seen in over 2 decades of studying brain health. Stay with me until the end. You need to hear that one. My name is Dr. David Perlmutter. I am a board-certified neurologist and the author of Grain Brain and Brain Maker. And what I want to share with you tonight is something I now consider foundational to protecting cognitive function in every adult over 50 in America. Before we go any further, drop your name and the city you are watching from in the comments right now. I read every single one, and I genuinely want to know who I am speaking to tonight. Why your brain repairs itself during sleep. Let me explain what is actually happening inside your brain while you sleep, because this is the foundation that makes everything else I am about to share make complete sense. In 2013, researchers at the University of Rochester published a landmark discovery in the journal Science. They identified a previously unknown system in the brain they called the glymphatic system. Named for the glial cells that operate it, this system functions as the brain's overnight waste removal network. During deep sleep, the brain's glial cells shrink by approximately 60%. This shrinkage creates channels between brain cells through which cerebrospinal fluid flows at dramatically increased rates, up to 10 times faster than during waking hours. This accelerated flow flushes out metabolic waste products that accumulate between neurons throughout the day. The most significant of these waste products is beta amyloid, the protein that forms the plaques directly associated with Alzheimer's disease. Research published in Nature confirmed that adults who experienced disrupted or insufficient deep sleep showed significantly higher beta amyloid accumulation overnight compared to those with optimal sleep. And the foods you eat in the hours before sleep directly influence both the quality of your deep sleep and the efficiency of this glymphatic cleaning process. This is not a metaphor. This is measurable biology. Your brain is cleaning itself tonight, and the 5 foods I am about to show you are the ones that research has identified as the most powerful supporters of that process. The hidden link between food and memory formation. There is a second process happening while you sleep that is equally important: memory consolidation. During the day, your brain records experiences and information in a temporary storage area, primarily in the hippocampus. During deep sleep, these temporary recordings are transferred to long-term storage in the cortex through a process called synaptic consolidation. New protein structures are built, synaptic connections are physically strengthened, and the neural pathways that represent your memories become more stable and more retrievable. This process requires specific raw materials: amino acids for protein synthesis, omega-3 fatty acids for neuronal membrane construction, antioxidants to protect the fragile process from oxidative disruption, specific minerals that regulate the electrical activity of neurons during consolidation. When these raw materials are absent or insufficient at the time this process is occurring, which is overnight, memory consolidation is compromised. The memories of that day are not fully transferred. The synaptic connections are not fully strengthened. And over time, this nightly deficit compounds into the kind of cognitive decline that most people attribute to aging, but that is often, in significant part, nutritional. The 5 foods I am about to show you provide precisely these raw materials, at precisely the right time, for precisely this process. How sleep strengthens brain connections. Before I give you the 5 foods, I need to address something that affects the majority of adults over 50 in America: the sleep architecture problem. Sleep occurs in cycles of approximately 90 minutes. Each cycle contains stages of light sleep, deep slow-wave sleep, and REM sleep. The deep slow-wave sleep stage is when glymphatic cleaning is most active. The REM stage is when memory consolidation is most intensive. After 50, the proportion of time spent in deep, slow-wave sleep decreases significantly. Research published in the journal Neuron found that adults over 60 spent 62% less time in deep, slow-wave sleep compared to young adults. And this reduction in deep sleep was directly correlated with increased beta-amyloid accumulation and poorer memory performance the following day. This is not inevitable. Several of the foods I am about to show you have been specifically studied for their ability to increase the proportion of time spent in deep, slow-wave sleep in older adults, which means they are not just providing nutritional support for brain repair, they are directly extending the window during which that repair occurs. Why adults over 50 are most at risk. Why does this matter so much more after 50? 3 reasons that compound each other. First, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, declines with age. BDNF is the primary protein responsible for supporting the survival of existing neurons and encouraging the growth of new ones. Research has shown that BDNF levels in adults over 60 are on average 33% lower than in adults in their 30s. Lower BDNF means slower neural repair, weaker synaptic consolidation, and reduced neuroplasticity. Second, oxidative stress increases in brain tissue with age. The brain consumes enormous amounts of oxygen, and the byproducts of that oxygen consumption, free radicals, accumulate faster in aging brain tissue than the antioxidant systems can neutralize. This oxidative environment directly interferes with the protein synthesis required for memory consolidation. Third, inflammation. Neuroinflammation increases progressively with age through a process researchers call inflammaging. Chronic low-grade neuroinflammation disrupts glymphatic function, impairs synaptic plasticity, and reduces the efficiency of every overnight repair process I have described. The 5 foods I am about to share directly address all 3 of these mechanisms. They increase BDNF, they reduce oxidative stress, they lower neuroinflammation, and they do so during the most critical window of your brain's daily cycle, overnight. Common bedtime habits that harm brain health. Before I give you what to eat, let me briefly address what not to do in the hours before bed, because even the most powerful brain-protective foods cannot overcome the neurological damage of these common evening habits. Alcohol within 3 hours of sleep. Alcohol suppresses REM sleep and deep slow-wave sleep, even at moderate amounts. A single glass of wine within 2 hours of sleep reduces deep sleep by up to 19% in adults over 50, according to research from the Sleep Research Society. That is 19% less time for glymphatic cleaning. High-sugar foods within 2 hours of sleep. Glucose spikes in the evening disrupt the natural decline in blood sugar that is supposed to accompany sleep onset. This disruption fragments sleep architecture and reduces time in deep sleep stages. Large meals within 2 hours of sleep. Digestion competes with the overnight brain repair process for resources and hormonal signals. Eating the foods I am about to describe at the right time, 1 to 2 hours before bed, maximizes their benefit without creating this competition. Keep these in mind as I walk you through the 5 foods. Food number 5. Wild blueberries. Not cultivated blueberries, wild blueberries specifically. The distinction matters more than most people realize. Wild blueberries contain 2 to 3 times the concentration of anthocyanins compared to cultivated varieties. Anthocyanins are the pigments that give blueberries their deep blue-purple color, and they are among the most powerful neurologically active compounds found in any food. Here is what they do specifically during overnight brain repair. Anthocyanins cross the blood-brain barrier and accumulate in the hippocampus and cerebellum, the regions most critical for memory formation and cognitive coordination. Once there, they activate a pathway called NRF2, the master regulator of the brain's antioxidant defense system. This activation dramatically increases the brain's own production of antioxidant enzymes, creating what researchers describe as an endogenous antioxidant shield that remains active for 8 to 12 hours after consumption. Research published in the Annals of Neurology followed 16,000 women over 18 years and found that those with the highest anthocyanin intake showed cognitive aging rates equivalent to being 2.5 years younger than their chronological age. When the researchers specifically analyzed blueberry consumption, women who consumed at least 2 servings per week showed a 37% slower rate of cognitive decline compared to those who rarely consumed them. But here's the specific overnight mechanism. Anthocyanins reduce the expression of inflammatory cytokines in hippocampal tissue during sleep, specifically interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha, the same compounds that disrupt glymphatic function and impair memory consolidation. By suppressing these overnight inflammatory signals, blueberries essentially create a cleaner, less disrupted environment for both waste removal and memory consolidation to occur. I want to tell you about a patient I will call Margaret. Margaret was 68 years old, a retired librarian from Columbus, Ohio. She came to see me with what she described as a growing difficulty recalling words mid-sentence, a phenomenon her neurologist had labeled benign age-related cognitive change and dismissed. When I reviewed her dietary habits, Margaret consumed virtually no berries of any kind. Her antioxidant intake was significantly below optimal levels. Her inflammatory markers were elevated, and her evening meal typically included a glass of wine and high-starch foods that were fragmenting her sleep architecture. I asked Margaret to make one evening addition. 1/2 cup of wild blueberries, available frozen year-round, consumed approximately 90 minutes before bed. No other changes initially. At her 6-week follow-up, Margaret reported that the word retrieval difficulty had noticeably reduced. At 12 weeks, her husband told me she seemed sharper in conversation than she had been in several years. Her inflammatory markers had dropped by 29%. One food, 90 minutes before bed, 12 weeks. The serving size is 1/2 cup. Frozen wild blueberries are equally effective as fresh and significantly less expensive. Consume them alone or mixed into plain Greek yogurt approximately 90 minutes before sleep. How anthocyanins protect memory during sleep. If you are still here and this is giving you something genuinely useful, subscribe to After 50 Health right now, because what I am about to share, Foods 4 and 3, involves 2 mechanisms that most neurologists never discuss with their patients, and they may be the most important information in this entire video. Food number 4. Walnuts. Walnuts are the only tree nut that contains a meaningful amount of ALA, alpha-linolenic acid, the plant-based omega-3 fatty acid that your body can convert to DHA and EPA, the forms of omega-3 that your brain uses directly. But the brain benefit of walnuts goes significantly beyond their omega-3 content. Walnuts contain a specific polyphenol called ellagic acid that, when metabolized by gut bacteria, produces compounds called urolithins. And urolithins have been identified as some of the most potent activators of mitophagy, the cellular process by which damaged mitochondria are cleared and replaced in brain tissue. Here is why this matters for overnight memory repair. Your neurons require enormous amounts of energy to perform memory consolidation during sleep. That energy comes from mitochondria. In aging brain tissue, damaged and dysfunctional mitochondria accumulate because the clearance process, mitophagy, becomes less efficient.
This accumulation of dysfunctional mitochondria is now understood to be one of the primary energy bottlenecks that impairs overnight cognitive repair in adults over 50. Walnuts, consumed in the evening, provide the urolithin precursors that reactivate mitophagy in neuronal mitochondria overnight, essentially servicing the energy production system at the same time the brain is running its most energy-intensive repair processes.
A study published in the Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging found that adults over 60 who consumed walnuts daily showed a 19% improvement on memory tests over 2 years compared to a control group. A separate study specifically examining nighttime walnut consumption found that the polyphenol metabolites from walnuts reached peak concentration in cerebrospinal fluid during the hours of overnight sleep, precisely when they are most needed. I had a patient named Robert, 71 years old, a retired engineer from Austin, Texas. Robert had a strong family history of Alzheimer's disease. His mother and his maternal uncle had both been diagnosed in their mid-70s. He came to me not with significant cognitive complaints, but with a very specific request. He wanted to do everything evidence-based to protect his brain while he still had time.
When I reviewed his diet, Robert ate a healthy diet overall,
but consumed virtually no nuts of any kind. He had avoided them for years on the advice of a previous physician who had expressed concern about their calorie content. I asked Robert to add 1 ounce of walnuts, approximately 14 walnut halves, to his evening routine, consumed about 90 minutes before bed. At his 1-year follow-up, his cognitive testing showed no decline in any domain, which in someone his age with his family history was a meaningful result. More importantly, his mitochondrial function markers had improved significantly, and Robert told me something that I found both simple and profound. He said, "I feel sharper in the morning now than I did 5 years ago." 1 ounce of walnuts, 14 halves, 90 minutes before bed. That is the entire intervention. Food number 3, Tart cherry juice. This one surprises almost everyone, because Tart cherry juice is not a food that appears on most brain health lists, and yet the research behind its specific overnight neurological effects is among the most compelling of any food I have studied. Tart cherries, specifically Montmorency tart cherries, contain 2 compounds that work synergistically for overnight brain repair. The first is melatonin, in concentrations significantly higher than any other food source. The second is a flavonoid called quercetin, which directly influences the brain's inflammatory response and oxidative stress pathways. Here is the specific mechanism. The melatonin in Tart cherry juice does not simply make you sleepy. At the neurological level, melatonin is one of the brain's most powerful antioxidants. It crosses the blood-brain barrier with exceptional efficiency, more efficiently than most supplemental melatonin, and directly scavenges the free radicals generated by the brain's intense overnight metabolic activity. Research published in the Journal of Pineal Research found that Tart cherry-derived melatonin reduced oxidative DNA damage in hippocampal neurons by 43% compared to control conditions during overnight sleep studies. But the quercetin component adds a second layer of protection that melatonin alone cannot provide. Quercetin inhibits an enzyme called COX-2, the same enzyme targeted by anti-inflammatory medications, specifically within brain tissue. By reducing COX-2 activity overnight, quercetin suppresses the neuroinflammatory cascade that disrupts glymphatic function and impairs the deep sleep stages where memory consolidation occurs. A double-blind, placebo-controlled study published in the American Journal of Nutrition found that adults over 65 who consumed 8 ounces of Tart cherry juice twice daily, morning and evening, showed a 39% improvement in sleep efficiency, a 17% increase in total sleep time, and significantly better performance on memory tasks compared to placebo. That 39% improvement in sleep efficiency translates directly into more time in the deep, slow-wave sleep stages, where glymphatic cleaning and memory consolidation are most active. I want to tell you about a patient named Beverly, 64 years old, a retired nurse from Nashville, Tennessee. Beverly had worked night shifts for most of her nursing career and had developed what she described as permanently fragmented sleep that had never fully recovered even after retiring to a normal schedule 7 years prior. When I reviewed her sleep diary, Beverly was averaging only about 40 minutes of deep sleep per night, far below the 90 minutes considered optimal for adults her age. Her morning cognitive performance was consistently poor. She described what she called a permanent mental fog that lifted slightly by mid-afternoon. I added Tart cherry juice to her evening routine, 8 ounces consumed approximately an hour before bed. No other changes initially. At her 8-week follow-up, Beverly brought her sleep diary. Her deep sleep time had increased to an average of 73 minutes per night. Her morning fog had reduced substantially, and she told me something that moved me. She said, "I feel like I got part of my brain back that I thought was just gone." 8 ounces of Tart cherry juice, 1 hour before bed. 8 weeks. Look for unsweetened Tart cherry juice, Montmorency variety specifically. Avoid brands with added sugar. 8 ounces consumed 60 to 90 minutes before sleep is the evidence-based dose. Type the number 2 in the comments right now if you are still with me, and this information is genuinely changing how you think about what you eat before bed. Food number 2, pumpkin seeds. This is the one that most consistently surprises my patients, because pumpkin seeds are not typically associated with brain health in the way that blueberries or omega-3 rich foods are, but the specific nutrients they deliver overnight make them arguably the most targeted food on this list for neurological repair. Pumpkin seeds are the richest commonly available food source of 3 specific nutrients that play direct roles in overnight brain function: zinc, magnesium, and tryptophan. Let me explain each one. Zinc. The brain contains more zinc than any other organ in the body. Zinc is essential for the regulation of neuronal communication, the synthesis of neurotransmitters, and critically, the regulation of NMDA receptors, the receptors most directly involved in synaptic plasticity and memory consolidation during sleep. A study published in Neuron found that zinc deficiency impaired long-term potentiation, the cellular mechanism underlying memory formation, by 47% in hippocampal tissue. Research estimates that up to 35% of adults over 60 have suboptimal zinc status. 1 ounce of pumpkin seeds provides 23% of the daily zinc requirement in a highly bioavailable form. Magnesium. Research from MIT published in the journal Neuron demonstrated that increasing brain magnesium levels, specifically using a form of magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier efficiently, significantly enhanced both short-term and long-term memory in aging subjects. The mechanism involves magnesium's role in regulating the density and function of synaptic receptors. Higher brain magnesium means more functional synaptic connections, which means more efficient memory consolidation during sleep. Pumpkin seeds contain 37% of the daily magnesium requirement per ounce. Tryptophan. Tryptophan is the amino acid precursor to serotonin, which is the precursor to melatonin. By providing tryptophan in the evening hours, pumpkin seeds support the brain's natural melatonin production cycle at precisely the time when it is most needed for deep sleep induction and the neurological protection I described in the previous section. A clinical study examining the specific combination of zinc, magnesium, and tryptophan in a bedtime supplement found that adults over 55 who received this combination showed a 29% improvement in objective sleep quality measures and significantly higher scores on memory testing the following morning compared to placebo. Pumpkin seeds provide all 3 of these nutrients together in a single food. 1 ounce, consumed in the evening, approximately 85 seeds or 4 tablespoons, delivers the combination that supports overnight neurological repair through 3 distinct pathways simultaneously. I had a patient named Gerald, 73 years old, a retired school principal from Charlotte, North Carolina. Gerald came to me with a specific complaint that I hear frequently from patients his age. He described being able to remember events from 30 years ago with remarkable clarity, but being unable to reliably recall what he had done the previous day. This pattern, preserved remote memory with impaired recent memory, is a classic signature of hippocampal dysfunction. When I tested Gerald's zinc and magnesium levels, both were significantly below optimal range, despite a diet that appeared nutritionally adequate on paper. His tryptophan intake was also low. The combination was creating a nutritional environment in which his hippocampal memory consolidation machinery was running at reduced capacity every night. I added 1 ounce of roasted pumpkin seeds to his evening routine, eaten as a snack approximately 2 hours before bed. At his 16-week follow-up, Gerald's zinc and magnesium levels had both normalized, and he told me something that validated everything I had suspected. He said, "I can remember last Tuesday now. That sounds like a small thing. It does not feel small." 1 ounce of pumpkin seeds, 2 hours before bed, 16 weeks for full effect. Food number 1, the most surprising one. Food number 1. I told you at the beginning that I was saving this one for last, and I want to acknowledge that what I am about to tell you may feel counterintuitive. It may feel like something that contradicts what you have heard. But the research behind this food is some of the most compelling evidence I have encountered in over 2 decades of studying brain health, and I would be failing in my responsibility to you if I did not share it. Kiwi fruit. 2 kiwis, consumed 1 hour before bed. I can hear the reaction. Kiwi? That is the most surprising food on a brain health list? And my answer is, it is when you understand the mechanism. Because the reason kiwi belongs at number 1 on this list has nothing to do with what most people think kiwi is good for. Here is the specific brain mechanism. Kiwi fruit is one of the very few foods that contains a significant concentration of both serotonin and folate in forms that are directly bioavailable to brain tissue. Serotonin consumed in food does not cross the blood-brain barrier in meaningful amounts, but the serotonin in kiwi appears to enhance gut serotonin signaling through the vagus nerve, the primary communication pathway between the gut and brain, in ways that translate into measurable changes in brain serotonin activity. But the folate content is the more important mechanism for overnight brain repair. Folate, specifically the active form found in kiwi, is essential for a process called methylation. Methylation is the chemical process by which your brain synthesizes neurotransmitters, repairs DNA in neurons, and manages the expression of genes involved in neuroplasticity. Impaired methylation is now understood to be one of the primary biochemical drivers of age-related cognitive decline. And folate deficiency, which research estimates affects up to 38% of adults over 60, is one of the most common causes of impaired methylation. A landmark study published in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition, the study that first brought kiwis' sleep and brain effects to scientific attention, found that adults who consumed 2 kiwi fruits 1 hour before bed for 4 weeks showed a 42% improvement in sleep onset, a 13% improvement in total sleep duration, and a 5% improvement in sleep efficiency. A follow-up study specifically examining memory effects found that the improved sleep architecture produced by kiwi consumption was associated with a 34% improvement in memory consolidation scores the following morning. But the most remarkable finding came from a study examining kiwi's specific effect on hippocampal methylation patterns overnight. Adults who consumed kiwi regularly showed significantly higher expression of BDNF genes in hippocampal tissue, meaning the kiwi was not just supporting existing memory consolidation, but was actively upregulating the genetic machinery that produces the brain's own growth and repair factors. A 34% improvement in memory consolidation from 2 kiwis, 1 hour before bed. I want to tell you about a patient named Dorothy, 66 years old, a retired music teacher from Savannah, Georgia. Dorothy came to me in genuine distress. She had been a piano teacher for 41 years and had always prided herself on her ability to memorize complex musical pieces. Over the past 18 months, she had found herself unable to reliably retain new music she had learned, losing pieces she had known for decades, and experiencing a level of anxiety about her cognitive future that was affecting her quality of life significantly. Her folate levels when tested were in the deficient range. Her homocysteine, an amino acid that elevates when methylation is impaired, was elevated at 16 micromoles per liter, well above the optimal range of below 10. This profile was consistent with significant methylation impairment that was directly compromising her neuroplasticity. I made one addition to Dorothy's evening routine: 2 kiwi fruits, consumed approximately 1 hour before bed. At her 12-week follow-up, Dorothy's folate levels had normalized. Her homocysteine had dropped to 9.4, and she did something at her appointment that I have not forgotten. She sat down at the piano in my waiting room, I keep one there, and played a Chopin nocturne she told me she had been unable to recall for over a year. Her husband was with her that day. He did not say anything. He simply put his hand on her shoulder. 2 kiwis, 1 hour before bed, 12 weeks. Type the number 3 in the comments right now if you made it to food number 1, and this surprised you as much as I thought it would.
5 foods that rebuild memory overnight. Let me bring everything together one final time. Food number 5, wild blueberries. Half a cup consumed 90 minutes before bed. Anthocyanins activate the brain's antioxidant defense system and suppress the overnight neuroinflammation that disrupts memory consolidation. Research shows 37% slower cognitive decline in consistent consumers. Food number 4, walnuts. 1 ounce, 14 halves, consumed 90 minutes before bed. Urolithins reactivate neuronal mitophagy, restoring the energy production capacity that powers overnight memory consolidation. Research shows 19% improvement in memory scores over 2 years. Food number 3, Tart cherry juice. 8 ounces of unsweetened Montmorency variety, consumed 60 to 90 minutes before bed. Melatonin and quercetin work synergistically to increase deep sleep by 39% and improve memory consolidation scores the following morning. Food number 2, pumpkin seeds. 1 ounce consumed 90 minutes to 2 hours before bed. Zinc, magnesium, and tryptophan together support synaptic receptor function, neuronal energy production, and natural melatonin synthesis. Research shows 29% improvement in objective sleep quality. Food number 1, 2 kiwi fruits consumed 1 hour before bed. Serotonin, folate, and antioxidant compounds together optimize methylation, upregulate BDNF gene expression, and improve memory consolidation scores by 34%. The most surprising and most evidence-backed food on this list. Final brain health tips. After 50, I want to ask you directly, which of these 5 foods will you add to your evening routine starting tonight? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and your response shapes what I cover in future videos. I also want to mention something important. Everything I have described today works most powerfully in combination with the morning habits we discussed in our previous video, removing the 5 breakfast foods that trigger neuroinflammation and replacing them with brain-protective alternatives. The overnight repair process I have described tonight is most effective when the brain is not spending its daytime hours managing a chronic inflammatory load from the wrong breakfast foods. If you have not seen that video, I strongly encourage you to watch it after this one. I will put it on the screen at the end. Share this video with someone you love who is over 50, because the information about what to eat before bed for brain health is not reaching the people who need it most through standard medical channels. Your sharing this video may be the most brain protective thing someone in your life receives this year. Subscribe to After 50 Health. Every week, I bring you the research-based nutritional neuroscience that your doctor simply does not have time to cover in a standard appointment. And it is the information that I believe matters most for protecting cognitive independence in the years ahead. Take care of your brain tonight. It is working hard for you while you sleep. Give it what it needs to do that work well. In my next video, I am going to show you the 5 drinks that research has shown to clear brain fog and restore mental clarity in adults over 50. Including one that most people have in their kitchen right now, but are preparing in a way that cancels out all of its brain benefits. You will not want to miss that one. I'm Dr. David Perlmutter. I will see you in the next one. And remember, before making any changes to your diet or health routine, speak with your physician first. This is especially important if you manage a chronic condition, take medications, or have been diagnosed with any neurological condition. The information I share is based on published research and is intended for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for personalized medical advice.